Okay, well, my guest today is a paleoanthropologist who worked at the University of Arlington, Texas, finding and preserving fossils to understand the origin of human evolution. Recently, she's been working at the Dallas Perot Museum on mammoth and Alaskan dinosaur. She was the science co-host on Dogma Debate, and now she co-hosts Atheist on Air. Ladies and gentlemen, Rachel Nanon Brown. Look at that, Rachel. They love you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad that everyone loves science, apparently. At least they love what I study, paleoanthropology and paleontology.
Well, I gotta tell you, I'm insanely jealous that you're a paleoanthropologist.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a paleoanthropologist because you got to go to like Ethiopia and literally dig. But I do paleontology work, but I did study paleoanthropology, so I'm like an honorary.
So you're humble on top of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the Fraser Valley, Rachel. And to give us a little understanding of who you are, would you be so kind to, like Seth Andrew would say, would you be so kind to give us a Reader's Digest as to who you are and how you came to be?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Okay.
not how you came to be. I don't want to hear your parents' intimate relations here.
Well, my dad met my mother, and one night, I suppose, at least when it comes to, I don't know if my atheism really matters because it just kind of happened. But I came into studying evolution through dating a pastor, and I thought it was going to be fine. We didn't have to talk about stuff. And then 2 years in, he said that people lived with dinosaurs and that the earth wasn't round and all sorts of other nonsense. And I went, ooh, that doesn't sound right. But he was very good at his apologist arguments that I had never heard of. So I decided to start reading every night after we went to bed so that we could argue in the morning. And after I started that habit, we lasted about like 5 months after that. And then after I broke up with him, I realized that I still really loved the subject. I loved human evolution. It was fascinating. And I guess that was when I was 20 or so. And then probably 2 months into just massively reading after that point, I switched my major because I was going to school for nutrition. And I realized I hated it. And I went, you know what? Fossils are awesome. And I'm going to switch. And so I switched to anthropology, subfield paleoanthropology or physical anthropology, and went to University of North Texas, and then got my bachelor's there. And then once I graduated, I went directly and started doing work for a paleontologist at the University of Arlington. So I do like dig site stuff. We dig up archosaurs, about 100 million year old dinosaurs, and did that for about 2 years, depending on the season. And then throughout that whole time, I'm just constantly reading everything that I could possibly find on anything natural science. So I pretty much, I'm self-taught most of what I know, especially when it comes to evolution and genetics, biology, astronomy. I'm self-taught. But I at least am able to say that I have the title of being able to do like a research assistant, for a paleontologist. And then doing that had got me into, I guess 2 months ago, got me into the being accepted into the Paleolab team at a Pro Museum. So I get to work with their team and help right now preserve a between 50,000 and 300,000 year old mammoth, which is pretty crazy.
Takes a lot of space.
What?
It would take a lot of space.
They said he was from space.
No.
I don't think famous are from space.
Sorry, that was my lousy attempt at being witty. I'm sorry.
They do take up a lot of space, so that is very serious. Like, you think you understand what a mammoth, like how big they are, and then you walk into a room with giant planks of their rib cages and their skull, and you're like, what on earth? Something shouldn't be this large. So I've just been working on that with them, and I'll be working on the first Alaskan dinosaurs ever found, probably about 3 months with them. And after that, I've done podcasting through Dogma Debate. I was science like you said, where I was like the evolution expert and science expert, and that's kind of where I was more showing off my hobby of reading evolution. So I was, I guess, one side doing like Archosaur paleontology stuff professionally, and then I had podcasting. I could write blogs and answer emails for anything possible when it comes to like evolution, because I've read it all. After that, I don't think, at least when it comes to science, there's too much more. I mean, I like video games.
That's okay. Science, there's not too much more. You say, well, that's okay. That's enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can keep going, but
That's quite enough. I mean, you're quite young yourself. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
27.
Well, see,
Just turned 27.
that's quite accomplished for a 27-year-old.
Well,
Not like an old fart like
sounds really fancy. I think I got lucky. I got real lucky getting into being able to work as a research assistant and being able to do that for a paleontologist that had connections to a pro museum. It was like, you should let her in because she's awesome. And I was like, yeah, you should. And then I got accepted. I was like, wow, okay.
And all of this about arguing with a boyfriend. It all started with arguing with a boyfriend.
It all started with arguing with a boyfriend. Yeah.
See, man can be useful once in a while.
He was very useful. I mean, I got to thank him, As an ex, I would still want to punch him in the face, but I will thank him.
That's okay. We won't mention his name on here.
Yeah, no. But other than that, I'd say like 90% of my knowledge base is stuff I just read by myself. I didn't learn it in school, so that's kind of where my hobby of podcasting and science mentoring came in.
Well, that's very impressive. Well, we're doing a show today on women in science. Is there a past or present figure that really inspired you? I mean, you said you're self-taught, and that's very impressive. But is there a scientist, whether man or woman, that kind of prompted you to pursue that avenue?
Let's see. Cool. Once I realized that I liked the subject, I would say the very first, because I started with just trying to understand how humans evolved, but that requires you to understand how evolution works. And the very first scientists that I started reading were Richard Dawkins for his evolution books, and I read Michael Shermer's book, Why Darwin Matters, and then there's a geneticist that's named Sean B. Carroll, not Sean Carroll, but Sean B. Carroll, and he wrote a really amazing, like, how evolution is shown through genetics. And I read it 7 or 8 times, and I emailed him saying, I love your book so much. It's called Making of the Fittest. That I've highlighted over my highlights to the point where they've turned black. I was like, I can't even read the sentences anymore. I just want to let you know that's how, this book is amazing. And he responded back when I almost passed out. And he's like, oh, I'll send you a signed copy of my new book. I was like, oh my God. And so I would say having the more, I guess, just a more common language teacher of evolution like Richard Dawkins that can really just lay it out. And then you have Sean Carroll, who goes like deep genetics, like there is evidence for evolution. You just have to have patience, learn about it. I would say it's those two.
Wow. Well, here in Canada, I guess the question I really want to ask you is, what's the status of science education in the U.S.? Because here in Canada, of course, the situation is very different. We're not on the forefront of a battle against evolution like you guys are. But one of my concern is we're starting to see that creep over the border. We're starting to see creationism happen here. But you guys are on the forefront. I mean, you deal with people that deny evolution. You work in the field and everything. So tell me, what do you think what's the status of the whole science in general in the U.S.? What do you figure?
Okay. Well, it's kind of complicated in that each
we
of the
can handle
states
complicated.
Yeah, it'll just take a while. Because Texas is one of the worst, and I live in Texas. Because we were one of the main distributors, and I guess I don't know if we're the main writers, but we're the ones that kind of manufacture and approve and distribute science textbooks. So what Texas makes and approves is kind of what the country uses. So we have a lot of control, and what happens here is very scary because in recent years we've had a lot of, I guess, very, very religious people that are either proponents for intelligent design, which is religion's way of trying to pretend they're science, or they're just straight up creationists. They're getting elected onto the board, and they either flat out say, like, evolution needs to be removed, we need to put creationism in there, or they say, we need to teach the controversy, and they try to put evolution and intelligent design on equal ground. And that sadly works really, really well because they've masked their campaign to put intelligent design with, you need to make sure that all theories or all sides have equal time, which sounds great. Sounds like a great idea. Everyone should have equal time. Show both sides of it, and they would put stickers on like science textbooks that say this textbook discusses the theories of evolution. You must approach this with a critical mind and blah 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 blah. And they would do all these little sneaky things that you're like, okay, that's fine, whatever. But what they're doing is that you shouldn't have to have a sticker saying that you have to use your critical mind and weigh the other options only with evolution. When they don't do that with any other subject in biology. They didn't do it in physics, in chemistry. They just were like, evolution needs to be approached carefully. And they put these stickers on, and we freaked out. But the main issue is that...
Hold on here a second. You're saying that they're putting stickers on school books saying that, warning, this is evolution?
Yeah, it was pretty much... I hopefully they don't... I don't know if they're allowed to do it anymore, but I know that it wasn't that long ago that they passed that. That they literally put a sticker. They put stickers on a version of science textbooks that were being distributed in high schools.
Only in the U.S., right?
Huh?
Only in the U.S. they would do that.
Only in the U.S. and starting in Texas. And then, let's see. The main driver right now is teach the controversy. Teach both sides. Make them even, so that makes most people go, yeah, well, why aren't you teaching both sides? That's fair. And it's just their secret campaign to say that intelligent design is science, and that it's another theory based on science, when it's not. And it doesn't belong in science classrooms. So that's a current kind of sneaky battle right now that they're getting away with a little bit better than just flat out saying evolution is not true, get it out of the textbook. That's not working as well.
Wow.
But sadly, they've reduced a lot of common high school textbooks to a couple paragraphs, maybe on natural selection, a picture of Darwin, and if you even have that, a lot of the high school science teachers are having issues when it comes to students, like showing up and battling them mid-class, or they're actually science teachers that don't accept evolution, and they'll completely skip that curriculum, or they'll teach it incorrectly on purpose.
That's amazing.
It's really sad.
So it's looking pretty grim on the high school level, is what you're saying.
Yes, when kids are supposed to be taking biology classes, it's either almost completely removed, or if it's in the kind of textbook, a lot of the teachers are getting away with changing the lessons where they can make evolution out to be completely false. And then they have kids like uprising in classrooms and...
So what about a higher level, higher education, like a college or university? How is that looking like?
I would...
I mean, you just came out of there yourself, right?
Yeah. With college, I couldn't say that there's any specific, at least when it comes to the major universities, there's any restrictions on current evolution information that's given. But I did notice going through college that if you actually learn about evolution, it's in a very specific class, and it's like a specific chapter. And if you don't go take physical anthropology, you don't go take, the biology and evolution of humans, a senior class, like you might get through college and you don't even hear about evolution. It doesn't happen. And so it's kind of weird to see, like, even science students go in, and I had physical anthropology down, like, because I had studied it before I got to the class, and then I got to the class, and then I was sitting with my classmates, and they were panicking because none of them understood how natural selection worked, and that was part of our essay, and I'm like, you guys are seniors in anthropology and archaeology. How do we not know that? So I don't think it's because they're being restricted, but we don't represent the importance of evolution, and why we need to teach it to everyone. It's not just a specialized, interest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So other than that, it's not in Christian colleges, like, at all. They teach Christianism.
Wow, that's
fascinating.
Fun. So
it's real fun.
If you're looking at the future, then, I mean, you're a younger generation. You're looking at the future. Are you pessimistic or optimistic about this kind of stuff?
I'm kind of on the fence because I see, like, what, like, their tactics are having to become, at least when it comes to the textbooks for the kids that are just learning about evolution. Their tactics are having to get more complex and ridiculous, because the fact that they can't just show up and go, well, I want God in the classroom, and they go, okay, that's great, let's do it. They have to be really sneaky about it. That at least gives me hope that courts are not allowing just blatant religion in science classes. But it scares me because of the fact that in, like, Texas, even though most of our cities are kind of liberal, our outside of the cities are not, and they're able to get these people into, like, the boards of education, and they have nothing to do with education, and they are some of the dumbest people I've ever seen, and that scares me. That we don't even care that the board of education doesn't believe that people, or believes that people and dinosaurs live together. That's scary. It's terrifying. But I would say overall I'm more optimistic because internet and Google and Google images of fossils is even better than it used to be 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. There's so many books out now. I would say that there is at least a higher population of the critical minded, but I think the other side's going to probably go out with a fight.
Yeah. I've always compared the religious mindset as it's a wounded animal right now, so it's more dangerous than ever. It's cornered. Oh, yeah. They know they're going out, so they're going to try to hurt as much as they can.
They're definitely, that's what it seems like. They're just pulling out as much, all the guns that they possibly could have, saying the most ridiculous things, trying all the ways to, but that kind of tells me that maybe we're winning.
Yeah.
So it's gonna still be a painful ride, I think.
Well, let's hope not. Okay, so tell me something. Like I said, the show is about women in science, and we're hoping that the show will appeal to a lot of younger women, well, and older women anyway, to get into science. So you, as somebody who fairly recently, well, you're still in the science, but got out of the educational system in science, can you give our audience some tips, some pointers, something, some words of encouragement? What would, if you were speaking to a younger Rachel right now, you'd say, what would you say?
Okay. I would say that to open your mind, broaden your perspective on what science means and what science could be. Because as I was going through high school and even early college, if someone said, I liked science, or I'm studying things, scientific stuff, I would immediately be like, boring, chemistry, that's awful, I don't care, what a bunch of nerds, and that's it.
It does seem daunting when you think of these big science subjects.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of one of the main drivers for what I do podcasting, is because I realize that the average American hasn't taken a science class since high school, They probably hated it, and they might have had a terrible teacher. And now when they're 32 and they hear that they have to like read science or listen to science, like, oh no, I don't want to sit there and do chemical formulas. So I think most people just get defensive. They don't even want to pay attention to it. But there's definitely a lot of resources and people out there like me that spend the time to kind of bridge when it comes to the big sciences and to help, the average American to go, you know what, actually this can be really fun. It's not a giant daunting thing that you can't grasp. It's not just sitting in the chemistry lab, or going, being an astronaut in space, and that's actually a very, very isolated part of science, and that I think that pretty much everyone could find a topic within science that they would find interesting because it applies to everyone's life. So, I mean, if it depends on, I guess it depends on the age that we're talking to, but if we're talking to somebody who's younger, I would say, specifically to females, that the fact that since it's such a broad umbrella, that it's a guarantee they're going to find something that they can become passionate about, because it's about understanding life. It's about understanding anything you find interesting. If you understand it, it's through science. And it's a very fulfilling path because one science leads to another. I studied human evolution, and that was it. And then that led to all of evolution, geology, back to astronomy, back to physics, back to quantum physics. And so I just started going backwards, and then you kind of realize, like, hey, this was fun. And you can then look at your cat and be like, wow, I understand what the cat is. That's amazing. Like, and then you can go to the doctor and get a vaccination and go, huh, I wonder what a vaccination actually is, and have the tools to Google it and be able to tell the difference between, an actual science article and the complete bull, and being able to find out the truth yourself. And I think that's very fulfilling. Even if you don't go into science, being able to differentiate between the truth and opinion is very, very handy in life, I think.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people look at science and they expect to see this huge tome fall on their desk, and it's all very dry. But even if you take little bits and pieces of it, you can, get into it real quick and understand real quick, and then all of a sudden it gives you the power to understand things that you didn't understand before or didn't understand before. Well,
I mean, there's definitely some dry stuff out there.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
definitely some dry stuff. But on Netflix, you just click science documentaries, and there's some really cool, like, just entertaining shows. Like, Your Inner Fish is a 3-part documentary based on a book that I love. And it's all about how you can look at yourself and find our fish ancestry. And you don't have to know about genetics. You don't have to know about paleontology or evolution. You can just go watch it. And that's science. And it's actually really fun to understand anything that you want to understand.
Your Inner Fish, I'll have to look that up. I remember you talking about that when you were on the David Smalley podcast.
I have to get a tattoo that just says, I read it in Your Inner Fish, just somewhere, because I say it so much.
So I guess this is your chance, Rachel. Go ahead, plug yourself, be shameless. Everything you want to promote about what you've been doing right now, up to date, your future plans. Go for it.
Okay. I don't normally plug myself. I would
you could
say,
be shameless. Go right ahead. We're giving you the mic.
Okay. Well, at least when it comes to podcasting, I'm on Atheist on Air now, and I have more of a overall science role, because it's a little bit more open-ended. So we'll have, a couple subjects, and it's, instead of having just a little snippet of science, it's a really in-depth discussion. And I really do enjoy being able to find as many ways possible to make some sort of information really fun, and make people not even realize that they're learning something, because they laugh, they find it interesting or ridiculously weird. And having that just kind of open platform has been really nice. So that's what I'm doing tonight. And
it airs on Sundays, your podcast?
we're once a month on the second Sunday of the
Okay.
month,
Okay.
I believe. And I went from doing that every week to once a month, which is actually kind of nice.
More free time, huh?
Because I get some free time, and people can, want and miss the show, and really like pay attention and want to listen to a couple hours of science. Which if you did it every week, it's like, all right, I just stop ranting. So I do like doing it once a month, I think. And the Cash and Professor Steve and the other co-hosts are awesome. And then let's see here. Professionally, I'm just going to be working pro, and if anyone's in the Dallas area in the next couple of years, if you go and you see a giant mammoth, I worked on it. And it's pretty freaking awesome.
That is awesome.
It's about,
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciate the time you gave us here, and I sure hope your this interview will help inspire some people out there to go out there and study science. Thank you.
yeah, anytime.